Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Sheffield Hills pre-launch webinar hosted by the North Global Group. I know quite a number of you are still joining as we speak, so I'll just take my time welcoming everyone and so forth, just to get as many people onto the call as possible. It's been quite remarkable in terms of the number of registrations we've had. We haven't seen something like this before for a pre-launch webinar. And it just underpins the huge level of interest for this particular product, and I guess the opportunity to own or invest within the Sheffield Beach area, and I guess with the ability to secure within a gated address with the amenities and so forth. So today's objective is really to give everyone a unique insight into development and to be able to ask any of the questions that you may not be able to ask otherwise, and really to be able to make sure that going into the launch on Saturday, everyone has what they need to know. And I think delighted to have the panelists that we have in front of us. We've got quite a combination. We've got Linda from a mortgage originations perspective, Quibus from a leverage chamber perspective, and I'll introduce the team as we go. But just a couple of things. If you haven't joined one of these webinars before, we really encourage questions, and we ask you to post as many questions as you possibly have. And my objective will be to facilitate this and to pass the questions on to relevant members of the team and get those answers for you throughout. So you have the ability to be able to post those questions on the Q&A section below, and I'll go through them and forward them onto a different team. And just by way of introduction, my name is Stefan Buerta from Rainmaker Marketing. I'm the Director of Rainmaker Marketing, and we involved in the marketing of a number of different property developers around the country, and look forward to taking you through the product this evening. We're going to try and keep this around 50 minutes, and we know everyone's time is really valuable, but the objective is to be able to circulate a recording of this tomorrow, which gives all of you the ability to be able to revisit some of the questions that were answered, forward on to family or friends and so forth, and then be fully equipped prior to launch on Saturday. One of the big things about this webinar, and has been part of the communication, has been that anyone who attends tonight's webinar has the ability to be able to secure the opportunity prior to launch on Saturday. So it means that Josh, who will introduce in a second, will be quite busy between now and Saturday, but it does provide some form of incentive for those of you who made the effort to be here this evening. I think just a high-level summary of Sheffield Hills, the product. And many of you would have seen the communication, and you would have seen all the different material leading up to it. But basically, studio 2 and 3 bedroom apartments ranging between 499,000 and 1.39 million, which will be taken to market on Saturday. There are 126 apartments in the first phase within a secure address, and the deposits start from 10,000 Rand, which is a huge benefit to anyone getting into a property market, both from an end user perspective or investor perspective. And we'll bring Linda in a second to ensure that you understand the process that goes around it in terms of how to secure your financing off the base of a low deposit, and how that reduces some significant barriers to entry within the market. And I think a very, very unique product. I think credit to North Global team for what they've introduced and really understanding where a huge gap exists in the market, and specifically with that Salt Rock address. And I think just a couple of stats, which I think are relevant. Quibus will chat a little bit later in terms of the massive impact that the combination between private and public sector has on an area like Ballito. And just some stats is that the total value of transfers within the Ballito and Salt Rock area, which is a significant area, and as many will know, the fastest growing residential node in the country right now, that value of transfers increased by 32% per annum since 2019. Which is really, really significant, and something that is very unique to the country right now. It just shows the depth of demand for all different price segments throughout the market. And the other key factor is that the population within Ballito and Salt Rock has doubled in the last 10 years. So from 2011, and off quite a high base to start with, it just shows the significance of people moving to the area and the desirability of the location. And although what we're launching here is a sectional title product, I think it's really interesting to note that if one looks at the freehold properties within the secure estate in the Salt Rock area, the value of those properties within a secure address exceed the values of the properties outside secure addresses by 91%. And that is a telling stat of why secure addresses that allow facilities and security and communities to be contained within a safe environment have such a premium. And I think that's why this particular product is so unique to the region if you combine all the different facets of any estate life. So I think, just by way of introduction, just to introduce the team before we get going. Firstly, Wesi Benchkapon, who's the director of North Global, the developers of Ilaleni Estates, as well as Sheffield Hills. How's it, Wes?
Good evening, everyone. Hello, Steph. How are you?
Good, thank you. And then to Linda Raw, who's the provincial sales manager of Uber, who are the leading and largest mortgage originators in the country. I think Linda will go through what that means and what the benefit is to own it. But Linda, it's a real privilege having you on this call.
Thank you very much for having me, Steph. Privileged to be here.
And then Kobus Olofsson, who I'm a huge fan of and huge respect for in terms of what he does on a day-to-day basis. But Kobus is the CEO of the Lembe Chamber of Commerce, and really such a massive linkage between private and public sectors and the significance of that role within a booming area like the greater Ballita and Saltop area. So Kobus, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, Steph. Thanks for the invitation.
And then obviously you'll see that everyone is situated in different areas of Sheffield Hills. We've got Josh is sitting in a lounge, Linda's sitting in a bedroom, Wes is camping out, as he normally does, doing very little around the pool. And I think from Noel, who's the architect, really to give us the unique insight into development, which only an architect can do. We know architects love talking a lot, so we can keep Noel reined in. But the biggest thing is in terms of the vision and so forth, it really gives you perspective into how the guys have gone about the project, the unit configurations, the size and all the facilities that come with it. And then many of you would already have dealt with Josh Varner, who's a development sales consultant, and a person who, if you are moving ahead between now and launch, you'll be dealing with quite a bit over the next couple of days. So welcome, everyone.
Thanks, Steph.
So I think let's get into it. I think it's always good to start with the developer and just really understand what the vision is for the project and how it came about. So Wes?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thanks, Steph, for the introduction. Can I just say that it's fantastic to be involved in this project. It's wonderful to sit in my office, but feel like I'm sitting out at the pool to soon be developed at Sheffield Hills. And I think Linda hit the nail on the head. It's actually a privilege to be involved in this project, even from the developer side. This is a very easy thing for me to say. What we've tried to achieve in this project is an all-inclusive product on the western side of the highway. It is attainable to anybody on the property spectrum. That's from a first-time home buyer to an investor. And what we want to make real is the ability to live on the North Coast at a price point that's affordable to everyone. So our concept was very, very, very clear. We had to get a site on the western side of the highway, which for us was a very important thing, on the North Coast. And our brief to the architect was, please give us a product that is to develop a community that can live in harmony on that site, on the western side of the highway. And I think Noel's done a wonderful job in giving us a product that Inga and I have been able to price to the market from $499 to 1.3 million. And it's very exciting for us because the North Coast is renowned to be sort of one of the most expensive property destinations in the country. And for us as a developer to say that we are the first to be offering a product in this price point makes me very proud of the team that's put it together and very proud of mine and Inga's company that's been able to bring us to the market. So Steph, to answer your question, very simple. This is about bringing the whole market, buyer's market, into the North Coast and give the broad spectrum of buyers, whether it be investors, first-time home buyers, families, bachelors, you name it, the opportunity to buy an affordable price tag on the North Coast, enjoy our beaches, enjoy our lifestyle, and enjoy what we have here on the North Coast at an affordable price. So in a nutshell, that's what this project's about for us.
And Wes, we all know how important the developer is, but also the professional team that comes with it. Is that quite a big component of this project?
So look, Steph, I mean, you know us very well. We've been in the area for 27 years developing property here, not only here, but all around the countryside. But, you know, I was born and bred in Ballita. I've lived in Ballita for probably 42 years. I don't want to be anywhere else. And I see the raging need to have an all-inclusive development in this area that is not about the millions and millions and millions that you can spend for property in this area, but it's catering for the market that really needs to be here, that cannot afford a huge price ticket. And we're just trying to get that blend and that mix of a wonderful community and a wonderful product and a wonderful destination that we can all enjoy. So it was very important for Inga and I to have our architect in-house with us. So Noel Hector is the architect. I have huge respect for Noel. He is positioned about 20 or 30 meters away from me every single day. And it's all we talk about, how to get this product out into the market at a very desirable point with an offering that sort of over-delivers rather than under-delivers. So I think Noel's done a fantastic job in that. And then, you know, we've got our sales guys. I mean, Josh is sitting there with the biggest chest pumped out because he cannot believe the amount of phone calls he's been getting and the interest. And it's just wonderful for him to be involved in this thing. You know, and then Steph, even from your side, to put together a webinar like this and to be able to expose this to so many people in such a short space of time is really profound to me. I mean, it's the first time in 27 years of our property business that we've been able to reach a market so quickly in such a short space of time, and also so with such clarity. People can see where I'm sitting is where they'll be sitting in 2 or 3 years' time and having pina coladas. And then, you know, so you're also part of that team. Linda's vital because when the guys come to understand how their bonds work, they need a very competent company to help us through it. And then obviously guys like Quibus who look after us and manage it from their Lembe chamber. It's all teamwork. Without anyone involved, we wouldn't be able to deliver what we do. So the team's very important, from architect through to sales, through to bonds, through to conveyancing attorneys, through to the marketing, through to engineers. We've selected the best people we can to walk this journey with us. And we feel like we've got a fantastic professional team. And I think the product really reflects that. I think to deliver what we're delivering, at least in the presentation side of things, and bring it to market is very clear of the performance on the professional side.
Wes, I'm going to give you a rest in a second, but there's just 2 questions that have come through. One from Neil Schwan, basically asking what is the exact location of the sites, and that ties in with a question asked by Matthew Dunn, where I think you mentioned that you were looking for something on the western side of the N2. He's just saying, just to confirm, where's the N2?
Steph, I'll explain exactly where the site is. So the site is in Sheffield Beach. If anybody knows where a good landmark would be, the Tiffany shopping centre, we're about 1 kilometre northeast of that, heading towards what you'd call the animal farm. And it's a project that we've across the road from a project that we did about 10 years ago, which is called Sheffield Manor. So the entrance into Sheffield Hills would be straight across the road from Sheffield Manor, which is a project Inga and I, North Global, did at least 10 years ago. So that's the exact destination. Sheffield Beach, you see the north coast as Zimbali, Belito, Charkers Rock, Salt Rock, Sheffield Beach is all one area really now. The names just reflect different, basically, suburbs. And our site is situated in Sheffield Beach, about 1.5 km northeast of Tiffany Shopping Centre, directly across the road from Sheffield Manor. And it's bordering Tanglewood, Elaleni, and surrounded by the Greater Seaton area.
Perfect, thanks, Wes. And I think just to all of you who posted questions, I really appreciate it. Please just keep them coming. Ganesh, Brensel, we are going to get to your questions as we get through the team. So thanks very much, and just keep them coming through. They're all relevant in relation to levies and costs and garden units and so forth. Noel, just want to bring you in terms of just maybe discussing the architectural vision behind the estates.
Thanks, Steph. I'll try to keep it short, so I won't waffle too much. Wesley, thanks for the kind words. And to all the viewers, good evening to you all. It's just being in an estate that's centered around an apartment style living. Now, our architecture consists of apartments that were carefully thought out in terms of functional spaces, and they were designed to meet everyone's living needs. And as a bonus, we really tried to capture the amazing views that we've got, these lovely inland views and sea views that are available. And I think that's really quite a big highlight for, and what makes me excited about these apartments. We chose to focus on like a hassle-free living environment. So to do that, we decided to introduce an internal gas supply to the estate. So with the intent that this gas supply services every single unit with gas for cooking and for water heating. So in case Eskom power isn't available, the guys can still heat their food and have a good bath. And then we also, what really inspired us about this development is the idea of the outdoor lifestyle. And so we decided that it was very important. You can see in the pictures in the background that we just introduce as much green softscaping around the apartment blocks. And we also decided to introduce what we call a green lung into the estates, which is really an open green area where you have access to outdoor facilities.
Perfect, thanks, Noel. And then I think just in terms of those facilities, I mean, it was quite a lot of effort gone into trying to make those as unique as possible.
Yeah, so the facilities that we're offering, so I mentioned that green lung. So in the green lung, we've got an entertainment facility that's part of it. So what you're seeing in the background there is really it. It's a lovely pool area. It's got change rooms and braai areas, and a children's playground. And also what we've decided to do is for every apartment block, we've also equipped each block with like their own small laundry room where there's washing machines and tumble dryers. It's also, we must realize it's a secure estate as well. So it's a gated estate. So we've got a gate house with access control as well. And perhaps, with the facilities, I'd like to maybe talk about the vision, which kind of ties in with what Wesley was talking about. But, my first visit to the sites, fortunately, was during the late afternoon, and it was just as the sun was setting. And, when we stood there, we just envisioned like what Wesley was describing, but sunset rise around the pool, children playing in the jungle gyms. And what really got to us was like a sense of community that we'd like to establish for this estate, where people and families can hang out. And so, which kind of brings me maybe to the aim and our intent of the design was to make this estate inclusive, so that everyone, from like individuals that have just started to work right through to young married couples or young families, that they too can also have access to this coastal lifestyle.
Perfect, thanks. And I know quite a few questions. Was it why just saying, are you going to show us apartment designs and pictures? Yes, we'll absolutely be sharing the downloads folder and during the chat, where you literally have the ability to access the buyer's guide, the brochure, and various other different elements. We'll be able to see all the different renders that are available in relation to the apartments. And we'll get to, I know, a question about how to get hold of Josh. We'll bring Josh in a second, but we'll also be sharing the WhatsApp link if any of you want to be able to chat to the team directly, and also the contact details for Josh just between now and launch itself. Linda, just to bring you in, I think a lot of people out there don't necessarily understand the benefits of utilizing a mortgage originator. I think the first question people will, or the first answer normally is, no, I've got my own banker, I've got my own bank. Maybe just to explain to everyone on this chat what a mortgage originator does and how it benefits the purchaser.
Thank you, Steph. Yes, that is quite a challenge for us because people often believe that they would be safest and most conveniently assisted by their own bank, which, that is an option that's available to all. But through partnering with the developer themselves and the rainmaker and the selling team, we have allocated a group or a team of expert consultants specifically to Sheffield Hills. These are ladies that do bonds for a living, and they have done so for many years. And they will be taking the buyers through the process, of which we believe quite a few buyers might be in the first-time home buyer category. So there's a lot of anxiety around entering into such a large debt or acquiring such a large investment. And there's a lot of nurturing that needs to take place. And we have the expertise and the capacity to actually take the buyer through that journey, alleviate all the anxieties, answer all the questions, put the applications together. And the real strength is obviously in getting the best terms and the best interest rates from the various banks. So we deal with all the banks. We have 8 banks on our panel. We would submit the deal to all the banks where the criteria, the bank's requirements and the client's criteria match. And we then have the relationships with those various banks to also arbitrate, appeal, and negotiate. So the aim is to provide the buyer with the ultimate best interest rate options available to them, and also the best terms of the loan. Now, this is not necessarily going to happen if the client only approaches his own bank. We actually have some stats to prove that the conversion of a bond, in other words, the granting of a full loan or a loan quotation through a mortgage originator, is substantially higher, purely because we're able to go to multiple lenders at the same time and then negotiate terms. And lenders are also very hungry for market share. So where they want to bank the deal, they will aggressively offer reduced rates, something that a client would be excluded from if they hadn't chosen this path to submit their deal. Just in closing on that question, I think, the customer journey is also very, very important for us. So our primary focus is to ensure that the sales are handled effectively, swiftly, and concluded in the shortest space of time. But we also need and reach out to the buyer to make sure that their experience of acquiring this property is a good one, and that they can look back at it and feel that they have had a fantastic discovery through the services of Uber to enter the market or to purchase another investment property.
Perfect. Thanks, Linda. And I think a key question to ask right now, I think we know that interest rates are busy going up, and we know that they were at their lowest in 47 years during the height of COVID, and it's natural that there is going to be some form of equilibrium taking place in terms of going back to sort of pre-COVID levels. Do you see this as being a concern that any buyer should take into consideration?
We are definitely in an increasing interest rate cycle. We predict that it's probably going to increase slightly over the next couple of quarters, but we are not alarmed by that. And the reason for that, Steph, is because the banks are still very actively wanting to gain new clients. So in the environment where the banks are eager and keen to lend, it's always a good time for buyers to achieve very favorable terms and a good time for people to enter into the market and, acquire a property through a home finance application. So I think to answer your question there, people are going to be looked at by assessed by the banks based on the affordability and taken into consideration the current lending rate. And also quite a few of the banks would build in a bit of a buffer. So when they do the affordability assessments, they kind of take a view on what the rate might do. So there's no reckless lending or a situation where a client will end up with a bond that they can't actually afford. And I think it's also critical that clients are aware that a rate increase of 0.25% is not a massive difference on the monthly repayment. So if we look back at history, and you've mentioned that we've had the lowest interest rates in the last, in fact, it's 48 years, it was bound to start going up again at some point. We were last at the 9%, which is the current bank lending rate, in 2014. And I mean, from 2014 until pre-COVID, we've done reasonably well in terms of putting people in homes and acquiring and, securing home finance. So I don't think that needs to be a deterrent for people. And I think, the banks will have the measures in place to make sure that their assessment provides the client with comfort that they're not going to get stuck somewhere down the line.
And I think just to add to that, I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand the benefits of buying with plan. many cases, yes, you can't walk into a completed unit and see exactly what the product is, but I think that's where you've got to go on developer reputation and what they produce and so forth. And I think there are a lot of questions being asked now about, is there a completed show unit? There isn't a completed show unit, but there is a very, very well configured show unit that you can walk into, or sales office that you can walk into, plans, the floor plans and so forth. And that'll be the key component for the launch on Saturday. But I think that the big benefit there is what people understand is that there is a lead time from when an off-plan development gets launched to when it's completed. And I'm going to ask Wes to cover it in a second because there are a lot of questions around that. But the benefit is that you have the ability to fix your purchase price now, and then in an area where you're having capital appreciation, in most cases, we've said 6% in the brochure, but in this greater area, you're seeing between 6 and 8% within any secure estate. So you're having the benefit of seeing that capital appreciation occur by locking in the purchase price now with your deposit, whether that deposit be 10 or 20,000 Rand, and then securing your bond on the balance of it. And that is what makes all-plan investments so unique. And especially when you get into the first phase, knowing that it's natural that once the first phase is launched and there's a huge success and so forth, that the pricing will naturally increase in estate over time. And I think that it's a really important consideration in terms of the fact that the interest rates, I think, like Linda had said, are now just moving back to pre-COVID levels. And if you compare to periods in sort of, I know, 1998, when the interest rates in excess of 24%, you're actually in a really, really good position. And the benefit of the capital appreciation way outweighs any negatives there. But Wes, I just want to bring you in quickly in terms of a lot of questions around date of completion, maybe just to elaborate there.
So, Steph, I'll just elaborate a little bit. You talk about a show unit and that. With technology today, we don't need a show unit. I'm sitting at the pool, what it will look like and will be like when we finish building it. So I think with technology these days, a show unit, whether or not it's a good buy or not, is not applicable. I think with the tools we've got in today's professionalism, people will be able to come and visit the site and get a very, very, very clear indication of what the development will look like as an overall, the living condition of it, the feeling, the emotion, the finishes, the tiles, the kitchens, the paint colors, and almost what the vegetation will feel like with the clarity in which we've presented this product. So I would encourage everyone to make a site visit and get to site, and you'll be immensely impressed in what can actually be presented to you visually. That's the first thing. The second thing is you asked me when will they be complete. So we're looking at going onto site in the fourth quarter of this year, the minute we can get our plans finally approved. And then you're going to be looking at occupation towards the end of next year. So what's very important about that, I heard you and Linda were talking about interest rates and that. For a purchaser, it's a fantastic thing because when you sign now, you've locked in your price. The inflation in building prices and all the rest of it, the developer's problem. The price that you sign the sale agreement for is the product that you'll get delivered on transfer. And I think there's a very real benefit to buy like that off plan. My partner and I have already discussed that in the second phase, we will see anything from a 7.5% to a 10% price increase. So to answer your question, commencement as soon as we can get on site this year, we would like to be third, fourth quarter on site, earthworks and piling, and hand over for the first phase, which would be 126 units, would be towards the end of next year.
Perfect. Cobus, I'm going to bring you in a second. Linda, I just want to ask you one more question. Jane Sichen has just asked, well, I hope my audio is a little bit louder now, but Linda just saying, is it true that bond repayments only take place after the site is developed?
Yes, the bond will only be registered on transfer, and that only happens when the development is complete and the unit is ready for occupation. So the bond repayments will kick in only after date of transfer and registration.
Perfect, thanks. Josh, I'm going to get to you. Just want to get on to Cobus. So Cobus, I mean, we've spoken about the population increase having doubled. I mean, we've used lots of different stats of in excess of 50 families moving north every month, and a component of those are people who are emigrating from areas like Joburg and so forth. And then we generally know that there's a lot of movement from areas like Durban North and Ganache and Upper Highway, but also seeing a large movement from areas like Tongaat, Verulam, etc., etc. So just to maybe elaborate on your side in terms of the type of initiatives that you guys are currently driving to stimulate engagement between private and public sector?
Thanks, Steph. Wes, thanks very much for the invitation. It's incredible, and congratulations. 270 people on a webinar on a Monday evening. I think that's brilliant for North Global and for you and Ingo. Very good. Thanks, Steph. Just maybe, and I'm going to be very brief. I see there's now 59 questions that Wesley still needs to answer. So I think from a lobbying and an advocacy point of view, Steph, I think we can always categorize the activities of the chamber into three different levels or components. The first one is around infrastructure, and whether how appropriate and adequate is the infrastructure that's being developed in our whole region, not only KwaZulu and the North Coast area, but in the whole region, to support vibrant communities, to grow and maintain the trajectory of economic growth, and then obviously responsible environmental care as well. So, the other two components will be around the cost of doing business, and I think that relates both to the levels as well as the transparency around those costs, and then the ease of doing business. And from a primary activity of the chamber, those are the type of things that we focus on. I think especially the cost of doing business. I think what is quite important is that we retain the competitiveness of our area to lure and continue to lure investors like North Global and other companies from throughout the country and internationally to view the North Coast, KwaZulu area, as well as the Ilembe district as a whole, as a appealing investment destination. From an activity point of view, I think probably something that is preoccupying our minds at the moment is that we're still suffering the consequences, especially from a road infrastructure point of view, of the floods. And we feel a bit isolated with restrictions on the N2, that people that want to go and have a look at the units and they're traveling from up north will definitely experience. And then obviously the damage that we've got to the M4, the P103 and the R102, and how we can get those repaired as quickly as possible. So just very briefly in a nutshell.
And then Kobus, there's obviously a lot of talk about the new interchange, which is basically almost adjacent to the project. You see that as being a big driver for the area?
Yeah, I think that's significant, and I think probably one of those issues that, in terms of taking traffic off the N2 and the development of north-south link roads in addition to the N2, I think that's significant for the use of the N2 and access and ease of access to the developments in that node, and specifically Sheffield Hills. And
then Kobus, just a last thing. So obviously we're seeing this massive residential surge on the North Coast. Do you see the commercial and the business side of Greater Ballito staying in line with that in terms of allowing people to work closer to where they live?
I think that's an interesting question. The questions that people always ask me, and maybe just to go back quickly to the infrastructure and just give people some reassurances, is maybe also comment on the point that Noel made, is that whether from an infrastructure and utilities and the services point of view, how do the Ilembe district and especially the North Coast position themselves? I think from an electricity point of view, the build of the Dukuza substation that is almost in the starting blocks now and ready to kick off, I think that will be a significant reassurance around power distribution. Obviously, what it doesn't do, it doesn't address the generating constraints and capacity issues that we've got. And I think Noel spoke well about that in terms of introducing gas and micro generation, et cetera, et cetera. From a water point of view, we're extremely fortunate that we've got a increased capacity at Hazelmere. We've got the Lower Tugela bulk water scheme. Caesar Water is at the moment increasing their recycling water plant. So, I think there's a lot of positive reassurances around infrastructure and utilities. To answer your question around the residential development versus maybe commercial and light industrial, I think that's probably one of the areas that we need to look at in terms of the competitiveness and the appeal of our area. I had a discussion with one of our commercial property consultants about 2-3 weeks ago about the percentage of commercial and industrial property that is actually available for rental. And it's an insignificantly low number. And I think what we need to look at is, in addition to the exciting and integrated residential offering that our area's got, that we parallel to that we also look at the commercial and the industrial trajectory being increased as well, to make sure that we also meet that requirement when people move here, but they also want to relocate their businesses, the manufacturing, etc., that we've got a home for them as well.
Perfect, thanks, Cobus. Josh, I'm going to keep you busy because there are a lot of questions related to unit types and sizes and levies and rates and so forth. And I know a lot of questions have been asked. I'm going to try and group them as much as I can. But I think, Josh, just firstly, what's the demand been like so far? I mean, the fact that we've got the enormous amounts of people on this webinar is probably testament to that. But what is driving that? And what have you seen over the course of the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, thanks, Steph. I think our interest has been overwhelming over the last few months, and especially these last few weeks. Project has really caught on well with everyone, and yeah, we've seen a lot of interest there. And I think the thing that kind of underpins that is there's no product like this in the area, especially at this price point. So I think that's a really big driver of why there's been so much interest for Sheffield Hills.
Okay, so if you can maybe just quickly take us through the different options and also the configurations and the pricing for those different options. And just before you go in, I know there'll be a lot of questions asked by people saying, I can't make it on Saturday, what do I do now? Basically, the sales team will be a point of contact. Because you are on this webinar, you have the ability to be able to purchase prior to launch on Saturday. So I would suggest being in contact with Josh and setting up a site visit between now and Saturday. For all intents and purposes, the public who are not part of this webinar will be introduced to the public to the product for the first time on Saturday, but you basically have the ability to jump the queue. But Josh, just back to that question.
100%. So I'll just touch briefly on the question you asked. So we do have a few different offerings, ranging from different sizes as well as prices. So we have our studio units, which are starting at $499. We also have introduced in the first phase our 1-bed, 1-bath, starting from about $715. We also have our 2-bed, 1-bath, which has been really popular initially, which is starting from $899. After that, we get our 2-bed, 2-baths, starting at $999, so just under $1 million. And then our biggest unit is a 3-bed, 2-bath, starting from about $1.39.
Perfect. And then are you able to go into what the costs are associated with those different units in terms of levies?
Yeah, so our levies have been calculated at 19 Rand a square meter. So it's all unit dependent. And then obviously for all your levies, they're going to be covering costs such as insurance for the building, security, gardens and general areas. So really just to cover costs associated with that.
Josh, to tell you, those levies include those costs. That's not over and above. So that 19 Rand is inclusive of your insurance, your levies, your garden, your security, and or it's inside your levy amount.
That's correct.
And then where's just while you're jumping in there? So obviously we know that if you're buying directly from a developer, there's no transfer duty incorporated. But just to confirm that there are transfer and bond registration costs that you just need to budget for prior to transfer, correct?
Well, look, Linda will tell you more about it, because this product has been so well received by the banks and by the public at large. first-time home buyers also able to finance their transfer costs. Maybe Linda might be able to pick up on that, which is a substantial win for somebody buying for the first time. It's quite a big amount to pay one off, but if we can get it into your finance deal, which is an option with us when you come and see the sales team on site, you will have your transfer costs incorporated into your purchase price and financed by your end user bank. So Linda, I don't know, do you want to talk about maybe how to include that in the purchase price? Because it is options that we've got.
Yeah, there's definitely opportunity for first-time home buyers to apply for what we term a cost-inclusive loan option. Many of the banks offer this product. It is very dependent on the individual applicant's ability to afford the repayment on the total amount, and obviously also based on the credit bureau outcome, the credit worthiness. So definitely available, and my team of consultants will have those discussions with each and every applicant with regards to how are they going to be funding their costs and what the cost would be, and also if this opportunity would be applicable to them, and we can then proceed with an application of that nature.
And then Linda, I mean, one of the really exciting things about Sheffield Hills is the number of first-time home buyers that have been attracted to the project. What's the bank's appetite currently when it comes to lending for first-time buyers?
Well, Steph, it's interesting that you would raise that, because for the past 2 years, the first-time home buyers have come out in their droves to acquire property. In fact, the Uber stats nationally and regionally shows that more than half of all applicants that we submit to the banks monthly comprise of first-time home buyer applicants. And the banks are really geared to capitalize on this big shift in the market and to bank the clients in the segment. Hence them coming out with things like cost-inclusive bonds. And I must say the banks are really keen to lend. So the opportunity to secure finance is at an all-time high. Our approval rate over the past couple of months, and keeps tracking at this level, is on the lower side of 80%, so about 82%, which means 8 out of every 10 applications we submit will be a successful outcome. And I think that should put buyers at ease in that they are able to enter the market. They need to be very clever about it and get pre-qualified. We have designed and introduced a whole bunch of tools to assist buyers in this space. Many of the people maybe on this webinar and out there would have engaged with our Uber Bond Indicator, which is a self-service online process that people can go in and obtain some indication of what they could qualify for. We then walk them through what we call a proper qualified buyer certificate process. We are currently in the process of dealing with multiple applicants in this space, where we basically do the entire bond application process as if a loan is being applied for. We apply a vetting mechanism to it to give a more accurate outcome. And the beauty about doing that is when you go and sign your offer to purchase and you've got a qualified buyer certificate in your hand, your offer will immediately be preferred. And the bond application process thereafter is then very easy. All we do is we then submit the application with all the documents we've already gathered, together with the offer to purchase to the banks, and approval is then imminent at the level of 90%. So I really believe that the tools and the processes are in place to make it as easy and as, how can I say, we take the anxiety out of the whole process. I think in our research before we came up with this tool, it was quite obvious to us that the biggest fear out there and the biggest deterrent is the fear of failure. So people don't want to apply for a bond to be told that they can't afford it. So the pre-qualification process then addresses that fear. And if a client for any reason is not yet ready to purchase, because there may be an issue on the credit bureau or there may be a shortfall in affordability, it gives us the opportunity through my team of experts to guide that client, to nurture them and to assist them with what they can do to become bank ready, and then they can be viable to purchase in future stages. So it really is a positive interaction.
Thanks, Linda. And I know that our team have shared the link to the Uber OBI on the chat. And I know a couple of hundred of you have already done this, but I would highly encourage you to utilize that. What we love about the tool is it actually manages to reverse engineer the sales process in terms of being able to understand what you can afford, and then being able to select the units of that Uber have incorporated, and really helps give you the comfort, like Linda said, going into the purchasing process. So I'm going to Josh, I want to ask you just a couple of questions, just in terms of the process from here. Someone is super interested in purchasing. They love the ability to be able to purchase prior to launch. How do they go about it from here?
Thanks, Steph. So the best thing to do, I think, is to go online, go check out our buyer's guide, really pinpoint the unit that you're interested in. Once you've done that, you can go onto our Uber link, which Linda has mentioned already. Make sure you have your pre-qualified certificate. And then in this upcoming week, during this week, give me a call to book an appointment to come to the site. We can show you around where everything's going to be, and go ahead and book your preferred unit.
And if I can just ask that the team have shared Josh's email address and contact number on the chat, just if someone wants to chat to him directly, as well as the WhatsApp line that is manned continuously by the team. And then Josh, I mean, a big question here is, we know that there's going to be a really healthy balance between people buying to live and a lot of first-time home buyers, but also the investors. It's very seldom that an investor product stacks up this well in terms of what the bond repayments will be versus what the rental income will be. Can you maybe just elaborate that? And is there a rental management solution for investors?
Yes, thanks, Steph. So we've seen a lot of people that are wanting to buy to live, but just as many people that are wanting to purchase a unit or even a couple as an investment opportunity. And we believe, because of how much this area is growing and all the neighboring places that surround us, we believe that there's going to be great capital growth in the next couple of years. We can vouch for this because we all know that KZN is the fastest growing area in South Africa at the moment. And on a personal level, we've seen with the project that we've done right next door, has had unbelievable capital growth over the last 10 years. So we foresee the same thing happening with Sheffield Hills.
Can I just jump in there to add to a little bit of Josh's comments there, is that from an investor perspective, if you look at what you pay in terms of your deposit ranging anywhere from 10 to 20,000 Rand, and you look at the pool of rental demand in this area for housing underneath 8,000 Rand per month, it's not available. So that just tells you that demand in the area hasn't been serviced. And if you think that you buy a unit, you pay 10 to 20,000 Rand for a deposit and you secure a bond, you've really got to do the maths and understand that your rental amount is going to be a substantial, if not surplus, to what your costs actually are. I think that's also very important to have a look at if you're from an investor side. Just to reiterate what Josh said, we're involved in a project across the road from Sheffield Hills, which is Sheffield Manor. And over the last sort of 5 to 10 years, when we look at what we launched those for versus what they trade for today, it has phenomenal capital growth. So those are the two elements for me, which should be taken into account when coming into this area.
And I think maybe just to elaborate on the rental income model. So I know there've been a couple of questions asked around the deposit. So the deposit for a studio is 10,000 Rand. The deposit for the 2-bed, 1 bath and 2-bed, 2 bath is 20,000 Rand. And then for the 3-bed is 25,000 Rand. And then the rental income projected for the studio is 4,500 Rand, going up to 10,500 Rand for the 3-bed, 2 bath. And in all cases, barring maybe one, the rental income exceeds what the projected bond repayments would be over a 30-year term at the current interest rates, which I think lends itself to what Josh and Weza have been referring to. And Noel?
Steph, I mean, that sums it up. So it just is explicit there in 2 phases. One, fantastic investment opportunity based on your returns. And the second thing is a permanent residence, a wonderful way to get into the market by only paying 10 to 25,000 Rand to secure your unit and getting a bond. So it really is that easy. And that's why your catch slogan was step up, and it means step up to buy some property, and today's the day.
And Wes, if you wouldn't mind just clarifying, there are a lot of questions around the deposits Will it be refundable? Where does it go, etc.? Maybe just to give the guys comfort around that.
Okay, so your deposit goes directly to a lawyer's trust account and is 100% refundable if the developer defaults in any way. So that means we don't touch your money, we don't work with your money, we don't see your money. It's just a commitment from the purchaser to acknowledge that they've secured their unit as part of their purchase price. That 10 or 20 or 25,000 Rand will be deducted out your purchase price. The balance you would secure by either bond or cash or how you want to secure the balance. But that'll be vested in a lawyer's trust account and would only be obtainable to us on transfer of the unit.
Thanks. Keshni, I know a couple of questions from you. Can we WhatsApp Josh to schedule an appointment? Yes, absolutely. That WhatsApp number is manned and you can schedule your appointment accordingly, or email and so forth. And I know a lot of questions around jumping the queue prior to Saturday. That's exactly the process to follow. Schedule your appointment with Josh and they will meet with you between now and the launch event and so forth. And I know Keshni's asked, can I use one preferential certificate to secure 2 units, one to live and one for investment? Yes, absolutely. I think what I'll ask Josh to just touch on is there is one block 2, which has been dedicated just for the launch event and for people going to the launch event itself. I think we're giving people pre-access to the product, but there are certain of the entry-level units in terms of the entry-level in every price bracket that will only be available on Saturday for those going to the event itself. In terms of Noel, a lot of questions here with regards to the finishes that come with the units and also the sizing. And I know a lot of work's gone into how do you find the balance between livability and price point. Obviously, the bigger the unit, the more you pay. And I think maybe just elaborate on those and just go into a bit more details in terms of the different unit configurations.
Yeah, so, we investigated what I suppose is quite a new term. It's been used in Cape Town as well. It's a micro apartment living. So that's like our entry-level studio spaces of 25 square meters, and then we decided to start with that, and then start increasing and providing a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, which then the sizes obviously grow to about 35 odd square meters and so forth. So it's really the whole drive was to try to provide apartments that will suit individuals and couples or startup families, right through to the 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartments. So our main approach was really to make it extremely functional, so that it caters for all your essential living needs, and really tried hard to try to utilize the space as best as possible. So we actually brought in an interior architect also just to look at the space to make sure that there's a comfortable flow. Furniture is going to fit. It's a reasonable size, something that isn't too squashed or too small. So we really harnessed using like the different views and just opening up the flat and allowing natural light, ventilation, just to make the spaces as hospitable and open as possible. And that was our main drive.
And Noel, what finishes do the units come with?
So we've got, obviously for your bathrooms, you've got your showers and water closets, wash hand basins. Some units have the baths. In terms of floor finish, we've got a floor tiled finish. The showers will be tiled. Coming into your kitchen area, we've got built-in cupboards, we've got open shelves above the kitchen area. It's a plaster and paint finish to the walls. It's a plastered concrete soffit ceilings. And coming to your lounge area, we've got aluminium doors and windows, sliding doors. Then out onto your balcony, we've got brick balustrades and then a tiled balcony, and it's large enough to just fit some tables and chairs on the outside.
Perfect. Josh, back to you in terms of, it's always good to know what you would recommend if someone was purchasing now what to look out for? I know a lot of people have asked about the garden units, and maybe just elaborate in terms of what garden units are available. Where would you look in terms of blocks and configuration, and what are your recommendations?
Thanks. So yeah, we have pretty much a unit to cater for everyone's needs, all the different sizes and types. Obviously, our garden units have been the most popular, and we foresee that being the most popular units. Another nice thing is that there will be designated garden areas for the ground floor units, which is always a nice factor to have, as well as people that are looking for a bit of space and a bit of privacy. That's where your top floor units will cover those needs. So we really do have a lot of different unit types to suit everyone's needs.
Okay. Where's just a few questions around the long-term letting and where the short-term letting is allowed?
I think you cannot stop anyone from letting their apartments short-term and long-term. But I think what we will try and do in the management of the estate would be to try and make it as a service as possible. So we will accept all forms of letting, both for business purposes and private purposes, but we will ensure that letting process is managed so that there's some form of control and order.
And just to confirm that there will be a dedicated rental management solution for investors in terms of securing long-term tenants.
Yes, so we'll do that. We've got a company that we work with that handles all our rentals in the area. They're the biggest, have the biggest book of rentals, and we'd encourage everyone to use them to, if they're looking for this for investment, to rent out their apartments. Yes.
Perfect. And then obviously a key question around security. I know there have been quite a few questions around what does that security entail? Is it biometric? How does it work?
So, Steph, we've got a very close relationship in the area to RPSS Security. They've been I call them a family security company because they've been in this area looking after this community for many, many years. They do our estates in the area. They do the other estates in and around this area. They've got the biggest presence, and they will be taking on this project as another one of our offerings and securing it with us. So there'll be perimeter fencing with electricity, biometric access control, so that we can just make sure that you're safe when you're inside your homes. And you're more than welcome to come and have a look at any of our other projects that RPSS mans and guards for us. I can't speak highly enough about their professionalism and their ability to create a secure environment.
Perfect. Josh, I mean, there are a lot of questions here about one bed. Are there one beds in the first phase?
Yes, Steph. So initially we weren't going to release any one beds in the first phase, but in the first phase we're definitely going to be offering a few one bed options.
Okay. And do you mind just touching on the units that will only be available on launch?
So the units that are going to be available on launch day are going to be a bit of a variety of options, from your studio to your 3-bed, and we've exclusively kept our units that are the most affordable for the estate, and that's going to be kept exclusively for people on launch day.
Perfect, thanks. So I know I'm going through these questions which have come in thick and fast, and trying to group as many of them as I possibly can. I really do apologize if I haven't got through the questions. I know a lot of them are with regards to the rentals and the payments. I know a lot of questions have been asked about transfer duty and so forth. And just to confirm again, when you're buying off plan from a developer, there is no transfer duty. There are just costs that are associated with the actual transfer of your unit, the registering of your bond, and the attorney's fees leading up to that process, which, like Wesley said, you have the ability to try to capitalize into your mortgage bond. So just to clarify that. And then I think Wes's last question in terms of the attorneys that you're using from a trust account perspective.
So we've used a locally recognized company, Schultz Wiesinger, and the reason why we've used them is they're local, which is most important to us, so that our clients have access to them whenever they need to. They're a very reputable company in the area. It will be their trust accounts that the money goes into, and they'll be handling all the transfers of the development.
Perfect, thanks very much. So I know that we, as much as we'd like to try and get through anything, through everything in terms of questions, I really hope that we have answered as much as we possibly can in terms of the product. Like I said, there will be a recording of this done, which gives you the ability to go through it. And what I'd really encourage is that there is the WhatsApp line, just to be able to send any questions you have on that, and that can be answered by the team. And obviously to get to site and arrange your appointment with Josh and Bevan and the rest of the team between now and Saturday itself. I don't know if there's anything that any of the panel members want to try to add.
Steph, I'd like to just add that our greatest concern about this project is actually being able to service everybody. You can see how many participants there are on the webinar tonight. This webinar is exclusively for people to be able to buy before the launch day on Saturday. So I will really want to encourage everybody who's on the webinar tonight, if you're interested to try and come before Saturday, because Saturday the project goes public and we are expecting huge volumes of people. The first phase is only 126 units. So I'd encourage all of you to go on the website. I can give you the telephone number now, which I will do in 2 seconds, but I'd really encourage you to use this week as best you can prior to the launch date so that we can answer all your questions, we can offer a good service to you, and that you feel like you've been warmly received from our company in terms of the product and its availability. So I'm just going to emphasize again, please try and get to us before that launch, because Saturday could be a very, very busy day, and I'd hate to have anybody upset that we haven't been able to answer questions, offer them the unit and the like. So I'm going to give you that sales number just one more time. If you miss it, you're more than welcome to go on the website. That sales number is there, and I'm going to plead with you, please, to go as much as you can to the site before the launch day. So that number is 087 655 4602. And I just want to emphasize again that when you come to the site, please bring all your information with you. Please bring proof of address, identification, and your pre-approval from Uber. If you haven't done the pre-approval from Uber, you're still more than welcome to come to the site, and the sales guys will direct you in the right way and how your end user finance can work. Alternatively, you might have your own in place, and the sales guys will lead you accordingly. So good luck. I look forward to meeting all of you and interacting over the next couple of days. And thank you for letting us present what we think is probably the best projects on the western side of the North Coast that Lito and Sheffield and Saltrock has seen in a very long time.
Thanks, Wes. And I think just to add to that number, if anyone's looking to WhatsApp the dedicated Sheffield Hills number, it's 081 725 9643. But that's also on your chat function. If you want to go down to the bottom of your screen, where you can find that. You can find the number that Wes referred to, Josh's email address, and also the Uber OBI element. It's not a mandatory for you to have done the OBI, but it really does help if you're able to bring that with you into your appointment with Josh leading up to this week, or if you can only make it on Saturday, arriving on Saturday. And I think just from a timing perspective, those of you who are going to be going through on Saturday, the launch starts at 9 o'clock, but we certainly recommend that you get there a little bit earlier. It will be on a first come, first served basis, and there will be a whole dedicated team to help you through the process. Otherwise, for you to set up your appointment with Josh prior and pick first. I think, like we said, only 126 units. The benefit of buying and picking upfront in the first phase, it's exponential in terms of what that means within a development. You see it in every single off-plan development that's successful that goes to market. The people who choose first at the best launch prices are the ones who really, really benefit from the project. But thank you, everyone. We really do appreciate your time. and we'll be sending out the recording during the course of tomorrow. And apologies for the questions that we weren't able to get through, but I guess there's only so much you can cover in an hour, but really hope that this gave you unique insights. And thank you very much for the panelists. We would have loved to have heard more from all of you, but we didn't also expect such many questions that came through. But thanks for your time, and hope everyone has a great evening.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Thank
Good
you.
luck, Wes.
Thank you.